Okay, folks, so I want to do this part 2 of this Air Defender 2023 because it has officially started. And I was going to try to get to this the other day, but I got distracted with a few other different things, including some interesting helicopters that were flying over really low.
Yeah, these are not on Flight Tracker, folks. This is the third set of these copters like this that have come through. And they are
and that were not on flight radar. And they were very curious to me because when I tried to zoom in on them and capture them with my devices, my devices were not working properly. They were shutting down. So I thought that was kind of curious. But anyway, I want to get to this because it has officially started. And I do think the timing of it is kind of curious because it was supposed to have begun like several years ago. This has been in the planning for a while, this largest exercise in NATO history since NATO was founded. And the timing of it just is very curious with the whole insane in the Ukraine thing going on too. And I don't really know exactly what to think about it and read into it fully, other than I do know that we have this narrative and this thing being pitched by not just the World Economic Forum, but our local leaders and everyone supposedly that's supposed to be our representatives, saying and doing things that just don't coalesce with what reality really is. You know what I mean? They're just playing along, of course, with the bigger script. But when it comes to these type of war games and these exercises and stuff, it just seems interesting to me that the whole thing would kick off when it did and the timing of it. And then also, you know, we had those NATO birds doing those exercises here just north of our location up there by Yucca Mountain and all that recently too. And I still want to get into some of that information that I have about the Tiger Meet, which is the NATO's Special Forces exercises, and they have some interesting patches, I can tell you that. And I still want to get into that. I haven't forgotten about that either, but... And I still want to share some of this information from this Government Accountability Office and the Weapons Systems Annual Assessment, and more specifically what's coming from the Space Force and the Air Force too, but they cover all the different branches, and it's just kind of curious. Anyway, this Air Defender 2023 is officially kicked off, and I do have some additional information, just a little bit anyway, just a couple of pages, and I wanted to share some information from the briefing here. And yeah, it's very curious that they would be wasting so much time and effort to do something like this at a time when we have all these crises supposedly going on. We have a homeless crisis and a fentanyl crisis and a public school crisis and a gender crisis, and you know, we have all the water crisis and a climate crisis. There's all these crises going on, and instead of really investing in what is needed to solve the problem, they're just using their emergency authorities just to gain more control over the civilian population. But meanwhile, let's go over here and just burn up a whole bunch of fuel, just exercising, you know. Just silly to me. And it just kind of shows as well their influence and their power, because they've managed to take over the majority of Germany's airspace for this exercise. So I wonder, you know, what is going to happen if somehow or another one of these jets that just happens to look like some kind of a Russian jet just happens to interfere with their little exercise, and boom, we got, you know, an openly discussed WW3 instead of one that's going on secretly through proxy wars and bullshit, endless conflict. It's just is frustrating. Anyway, Air Defender 2023 has officially kicked off. And what is Air Defender 23? Exercise Air Defender is the largest Air Force deployment exercise since NATO was founded. I had, you know, covered that in the previous video, but I'm just reiterating it through this publication here. This summer, about 100 Air National Guard aircraft from 35 different states will make the leap across the Atlantic to participate in Air Defender 2023. In addition to the world's most modern jets, the F-35, more than 20 different types of aircraft and airmen from 24 nations will practice air warfare operations together over Germany, but also over Eastern Europe on the NATO border. Among them, Eurofighter, F-18, F-16, A-10, and the Gripen jets. The A-10 I find curious, because I thought that was one that was supposed to have been retired, and I do have an image. There's an image of one of the A-10s, or what they call the Warthog there. I'm kind of curious, like... But you know, that was supposed to have been retired. There's a Griffin. There's what a Griffin or a Gripen. I'm not sure exactly how they pronounce it, but that's what a Gripen looks like. Yeah, they were supposed to have retired the A-10, which I think is kind of curious because it says here Congress rebuffs Air Force's plan to retire older aircraft, putting A-10 move on hold. Air Force is open to sending A-10s to Ukraine to fight against Russia. Ukraine official says country doesn't want old American A-10s. Yeah, don't give us your old ass junk. I just think that's kind of curious that that's one of the things that's mentioned here in this publication that's going to be used in the exercises. So, I mean, I'm not really quite sure what good it's going to do to train any new pilots that might be involved in this, which I'm assuming that it's going to be, you know, seasoned pilots that are going to be flying these little exercises. But, you know, if they just happen to be, you know, training newer pilots and stuff like that, it's not going to do much good to train them to fly around in these older birds. If you're planning on introducing next gen type of stuff, you should be, you know, having them, you know, train on stuff like that, which I'm sure that they already are. But anyway, I thought that was kind of curious. The A-10 was being involved with it. And Air Defender 23 will be the key exercise of the German Air Force, underscoring NATO's transatlantic cohesion and the relevance of air forces for national as well as the alliance's defense. Yeah, what about our national defense here at home? Hopefully they left enough of these air defense systems and aircraft defending our nation. And just saying, you know, in the past, there were exercises and things going on and keeping them busy while other things were going on, right? With Air Defender, we send a clear signal that we absolutely guarantee the security of the alliance without ifs or buts. Yes, you can guarantee we will send you all of our old and retired equipment. We need to train as we fight, so we can fight as we have trained. Well, that seems kind of funny, huh? Like, it's almost like we gotta go up in order to get down. Our cooperation with friends and partners have been proven successful over decades, and in particular, the Air Force's close transatlantic ties are part of our DNA. Air Defender will raise our partnership and cooperation to a new level. Yeah, a whole another level? Yeah? Okay. Just waste all that money. Go ahead. Why not? What is the strategic goal of the exercise? With AD-23, LW, which I believe stands for Luftwaffe, intends to demonstrate determined Allied air power. Together with the U.S. and our allies in Europe, Luftwaffe will send a highly visible and powerful signal of credible deterrence in the air domain, as well as an underlining of reassuring our partners in East and Southeastern Europe. Yeah, well, good for them. That's good that they got a good defensive system. But that, you know, they are going to be testing their space-based systems too. When they talk about air domain, they're talking about the upper atmosphere as well. So there's like some Star Wars stuff going on over there too. You know damn well. I know there's stuff like that being practiced around the valley here. I see it. I see it at night. I see the little laser beams and stuff popping off to the north of our location. You can tell me that's just natural, or it's like, you know, anything other than what I know it to be. They are testing Star Wars stuff, which includes emitting plasma beams and lasers. It's not just science fiction, you know. You have a lot of those bigger research and development companies like the Lockheeds and the Raytheons and all of them, and the BAE Systems, that have openly publicized and come out. In fact, I have the publications. I've done a couple of different videos on it showing you and that they have been researching and developing these systems that are like Star Wars types of systems where they are using lasers and emitting plasma beams and playing around and directing energy. And they are using ground-based installations like photovoltaic solar array fields and most possibly people's rooftop solar panels as well. You are aiding and abetting and contributing to their ability to harvest and capture and redirect energy around our freaking planet and frequencies. Anyway, AD-23 is the largest deployment of air assets since the foundation of NATO. Well, isn't that special? We want to promote collective defense of common values, freedom, democracy, prosperity. Attack on one NATO nation is an attack on all. Well, again, I have to ask, what happens if somebody decides that they want to attack us openly? I mean, we're already being attacked from the inside out. Like, who's going to come and be our freaking saviors? We're supposed to run to the NWO? No thanks. Now, if that's what they want us to do, then they're SOL as far as I'm concerned. I won't support that. You can take your globalism and your global guidelines to all of this crap that's going on and shove them really far up your asses. I'm just saying. You know what I mean? Until the typeset, until you can taste the ink on the paper. Anyway, promote responsiveness of air power. Allied air forces are first responders. Excuse me. Promote strong resolve of allied nations' air power. Allied air forces protect European airspace against any threat. Promote defensive nature of Air Defender 23. Yeah, it's always for defensive purposes, right? That's what NATO exists for. It's just for defensive purposes, right? They're not bullies or anything like that, no. Allied air superiority is key to protect population and own forces. Air Defender reflects the Russian war of aggression. The war in Ukraine determines our present and shapes our future. Again, you gotta turn left in order to go right. The inherent characteristics of air power, speed, reach, and height, have proven to be valid and decisive. And that last one, height, that has been, really the goal of a lot of these different militaries, is to gain that literal higher ground, that higher space. That's why they've invested a lot into these space-based systems. I'm telling y'all, there's stuff going on up above our heads that most people still think is just science fiction, but it's not. They are researching, developing, and deploying these systems in our very near atmosphere, just above our heads, just barely out of sight. But they're not out of my sight. I've been seeing them for several years. They've been testing them for several years. But anyway, how convenient that this whole insane in the Ukraine war thing kicks off. Anyway. Timeline of Air Defender 23. The truth is that shortly after taking over responsibility for the command of the Air Force, I developed the idea during a trip to the USA in 2018. Preparations for the European Defender exercise were underway at the time, an important exercise that shows the transatlantic link of Army forces. So again, there was an important exercise already going on, the Euro Defender, in 2018 when they started planning this largest exercise in NATO history, right? For almost 2 years, my AD-23 planning team is working on the details of the exercise, gathered force profile and holdings, developed the bed-down plan in Germany, created airspaces suitable for large force employment, and developed our detailed missions and scenario along the key messages of AD-23 and coping with training requirements of participating nations and forces. In July 22, we conducted a very successful initial planning conference. Did any of y'all know about that? That underlined the interest and willingness of a large number of European air forces to participate in AD-23. Yeah, and I bet most of your conference was spent discussing how you need to posture more against, who, right? The main planning conference took place in December 22, where commitments of troop contributing nations were confirmed. Where confirmed, it's supposed to be were confirmed, but there's a typo there. And planning was consolidated. Yeah. Final coordination conference will be conducted mid-April and is finally setting the scene for the conduct phase. AD-23 will be conducted from 12 to 23 June 2023 with the deployment of the air assets mostly conducted the week before. So they obviously changed that because their main briefing mentions the 12th too, but they did say something about the 24th. This one says until the 22nd on the briefing here. And this says the 23rd, but who knows? I mean, they're going to do whatever they want, however they want to do it. How is NATO involved? It is natural that the interest of the states of Eastern Europe is the exercise is very great and has grown enormously as a result of Russia's war. Yeah, Russia's war, right? The promise of unity in the alliance and the assurance that forces will be quickly made available for defense is the core of the alliance and the core of our security in Europe. Yep, by all means, you can have all of our old equipment. Every day, we actively underscore in real terms that we, the German Air Force, protect the NATO airspace on the eastern flank. We patrol NATO airspace side by side with our partners, monitor the closure of German airspace to Russian aircraft with our radar systems, perform reconnaissance flights with our ECR Tornadoes over the Baltic Sea, and refuel Allied combat aircraft with our A400M and A330 tankers, reconnaissance aircraft, our infantry forces, and our air defense units. Regardless of the name of the exercise, we are in action as air defenders every day. Air Defender 23, in our own understanding, is not a bilateral exercise between Germany and the U.S., but a clear signal from NATO as a whole. And NATO needs to go. I'm so tired of it. We need to stop playing around with NATO. NATO needs to go. We're being called out on the world stage, folks, consistently, for exactly how NATO operates and how NATO functions. It's pretty well known in the international community. And again, they want us all to run to the international community and say, well, save us. And it's just not going to happen. We don't need that. We really don't. We need to go right the same way that they've been done. We need to write the letters and contact the representatives and the legislators and all that and make sure that they understand and they know that we don't support this. We don't support NATO being bullies. We're not supposed to be a global force for good. We really are supposed to be a nation-wide defense for our own nation. That's what our military is supposed to be. And this whole thing with this whole exercise and making sure that our allies know, what good is it really going to do us in the end? because ultimately, if we're the ones that are supplying everybody with all of their defensive forces and their mercenaries and everything that they need in order to win a war, who's going to really back us up? Seriously. Anyway, how is NATO involved? 8023 underlines our strong commitment with NATO's effort of reassurance of our Eastern partners. First of all, our Eastern partners are participating in the exercise, with air assets and planners in the Air Operations Headquarters. Additionally, we plan and conduct daily missions to show force at NATO's eastern flank. And NATO is participating with own assets in Air Defender. First, NATO Airborne Early Warning and Control, AWACS, will fly every day, and NATO airborne and ground-based electronic warfare assets will be incorporated. So you know damn well it's going to include some space-based systems, y'all. Second, the deployable NATO Tactical Air Command and Control Center, the so-called DARS, D-A-R-S, will deploy to Germany and participate. Is that right? Well, that's good to know. 2 NATO exercises, Ramstein Dust for NATO's deployable air command and control capability, the DARS and Ramstein Guard for electronic warfare, are linked into our exercise. You notice how in the previous publication, they only mentioned these 2, the Ramstein Dust and the Ramstein Guard. They didn't mention the use of the DARS and all of that additional information there. So I find that kind of curious that they would have omitted that in that previous publication and not mentioned the DARS. And you know darn well that they're deploying and using next generation type of electronic warfare and cyber jamming type of stuff too. So anyway, there's a reason why they have sanctioned almost Germany's entire airspace for this little operation. Anyway, facts about Air Defender 23. We expect more than 220 aircraft to participate in AD-23, about 100 aircraft from U.S. Air National Guard, 60 aircraft from our European partner nations, and further international partners, as well as 60 aircraft of the Luftwaffe. It is expected that a total of 24 participating nations, 18 with air assets and 6 with subject matter experts in the DEU, which is the DEU is the Germany country code, by the way, Air Operations Center, and almost 10,000 airmen plus NATO with its E-3A, the DARS and electronic warfare assets will be involved in AD-23. Well, let's hope that they got a really good backup system to keep us protected back here, right, on this continent. Forces will be deployed all over Germany with a focus and major contingents on the Luftwaffe's air bases, Schleswig and Hohn in the north. And Hohn is the one that I was talking about before, and I have a little bit of information on Hohn and Tiger Meets. NATO Special Forces exercises, too, that they do that I'm going to share in another video. I'll try to get to that this week. Wunsdorf, I don't even know, whatever. Wunsdorf in the center and Lechfeld in the south. Almost all of the Luftwaffe's air bases will host exercise participants or employ own assets. Our Air Operations Headquarters at Kelkar, Udem, plays the very central role as the Air Command and Control Center for all exercise activity. All missions will be planned, tasked, and coordinated from our German Air Operations Center in Kelkar and Udem. Yeah. So Germany is going to be taking control, commanding and controlling all of the NATO forces for this exercise to show whether or not they're capable of handling it, right? Yeah. And there it is. DEU equals Germany's country code. So when they mention DEU, they mean basically Germany. Air National Guard. AD-23 will be composed of national, international, and NATO efforts such as the Multinational Air Group exercise, a strong U.S. Air National Guard contingent with a high number of multi-role fighter and support aircraft deploying to DEU, or Germany. The significant participation of U.S. Air National Guard underlines the strong transatlantic bond between the U.S. and Europe. Our contacts with the Air National Guard are excellent. Yeah, party on, dudes. They're excellent. The Air National Guard is impressively equipped, highly modern, and professional. According to current planning, the ANG is participating with 100 aircraft and other air domain related capabilities from 35 different states. Yeah, other air domain related capabilities. Yeah, you know, they're going to be introducing some next generation space-based systems, folks. You know damn well they're going to be testing that. The Luftwaffe is connected to USA on many levels. We are very proud that we have been able to invite and welcome the Air National Guard with such a large participation across the Atlantic. And again, I have to reiterate because I'm repetitive. Hopefully they left behind enough forces and defensive means to protect our continent right now while they're over there busy doing their little exercises. And another thought is that we are pleased to have the F-35 visit us. We are shaping our future with the F-35. Joining the F-35 program is an important milestone that will further intensify our ties. Shared weapons systems are the best basis for even closer cooperation. Shared? What do you mean by shared? What exactly are you contributing, other than just maybe some physical bodies sometimes? I mean, seriously, folks. Who's the biggest contributor to NATO? So when they talk about shared weapons systems are the best basis for even closer cooperation, you mean the U.S. just giving them everything, right? Together with our friends and partners, we will implement the modernization of our Air Force even faster and more consistently. Well, good for you. Good for you, Germany. Exercise areas. There is not one big training space, but several areas that are ideally scaled. For Air Defender as a large force employment exercise, we had to create completely new exercise airspaces. Interesting, huh? Which means repositioning communication systems. You may know the airspace over Europe is the most frequented one in the world. Together with our civil partners, Dutch Flugsicherung, I have no idea what that word is, but it is what it is, and I'm not going to try it again, and Eurocontrol, we created 3 large exercise areas in the east, south, and north of Germany that will be used every day in sequenced activation. Additionally, our neighbors Poland and Czech Republic offered their military training areas for so-called continuation training, means smaller air defense exercise missions outside the big waves. Interesting. It is estimated that there will be 3 big composite air operations every day, with about 40 to 80 aircraft each and command and control elements. All in all, it is about 250 sorties per day. Interesting, huh? It's going to be busy bees. Busy bees over there. Yeah. Distinguished Visitors Day. How'd you like to be a distinguished visitor? Yeah. We have soon realized that the interest in the exercise is great and constantly growing. In order to make all requests workable, we are holding a main Distinguished Visitors Day and some side events, and are pleased to be able to show what we are doing in concrete terms. The acceptance of the top-level international and national politicians and military, such as the SACEUR, which is the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, General Christopher G. Cavoli, is a special honor. So he's a special guest. How awesome. We also coordinate the numerous media requests. It is important to provide an understanding of the scope of the exercise to avoid misunderstandings. Yeah, so they got to control the media surrounding this whole thing, too. Yeah, because that's not suspect or anything like that, right? Luftwaffe will set up a media center at all involved air bases, and the DEU AOC, which is the German Air Force Air Office Command, to provide attractive media products, folks. That's exactly what it says. That's why I underlined it, because I thought that was kind of interesting. That the German Air Office Command Center is going to provide the media with attractive media products and information to local or regional and national and international media. And there will be a main media center at the Schwechlingen Air Base that especially focuses on international media and the DV Day. So this base here that they're going to be staging the media center and everything at, from 1945 to 1958 was known as the Royal Air Force Schleswigland for Royal Air Force use. It's like it was a reconnaissance base, so it's kind of interesting that they would use an old reconnaissance base as well to stage their media props and their propaganda and everything. So attractive media products, yeah. We want to send a visible signal with the exercise. After all, an exercise without strategic communications and public relations would make little sense. Air Defender ensures that there is no room for misunderstanding about our readiness to protect and defend all allies. Yeah. So controlling the media is part of their plans there. So that's kind of curious. So if they were to have some kind of a mishap or something were to go live or something were to happen, they could most definitely control the flow of the information. And by looking at the maps and stuff, this is one of the briefings here. And they're showing, yeah, I think that was the introduction. Let me back up just a little bit. There we go. AO briefing for Air Defender 2023, 12 to 22nd June 2023. This AO briefing informs about the military exercise Air Defender 2023 and its impact on GAT flight planning. So that's German air traffic. So that's all of this traffic, like, over this whole entire area of Germany. So, which I think is kind of curious. The exercise is conducted between 12 and 22nd June 2023, excluding Saturday 17th and Sunday the 18th. So they won't be doing anything on those days. So I wonder if they're going to observe the Juneteenth too. Anyway, this implies that the following information is relevant for 9 days of the exercise. The exercise comprises 3 regional clusters of military exercise airspace, which are used in the time sequence outlined here to the right. So you can see this is their east side. They're going to be running their drills at this time. And yeah, anyway, this AO briefing contains comprehensive information regarding the location and composition of the military exercise airspace and the impact which it has on German air flight planning. Following a general introduction of the 3 clusters, the impact on various traffic flows is divided in chapters dedicated to overflights and to traffic from and to certain nearby aerodromes. So I'll just show this map here really quick because I want to get into a little bit to do with the Government Accountability Office information as well. But you can see this exercise is pretty big. It is indeed a very large exercise, and then they give all of these different coordinates and give detailed information on each different area, and they show some of the different sectors and the different airports that are going to be impacted, and it shows like the different corridors. This is basically just a lot of different maps showing specific training areas and everything for the different exercises, and then it's got a lot of different, it shows how they're going to be redirecting the traffic around on the eastern side. Yeah, so it's kind of a curious briefing. There's a lot of technical information as well that's kind of boring to read, much less read out loud. But you can see here they have it pretty well planned out. There's going to be several areas that are going to be designated for this, and not only is the airspace, but the ground space as well, and then the upper airspace. So they're going to be deploying these space-based systems that are going to be emitting some interesting frequencies, I'm sure, that eventually could have an impact on what's going on over there, supposedly, in, saying, Ukraine situation as well. So, anyway, yeah, that's your Air Defender 2023 has officially kicked off. It's the largest NATO exercise since they were founded. They're going to be zipping around with some of these here. I'll show some of these other images here because I do want to get into some of this with the Government Accountability Office and show some of the Air Force and the Space Force and some of that information. There's your A-10-2, which the Ukraine says they don't want. And here is the F-35 Lightning II, and that's kind of a curious looking bird. And this is the F-35A Lightning II. It's kind of curious. That one's like not a very good one. Yeah, this one here is kind of clear. You kind of read some of it. This is the F-16 versus the Subaru Sukhoi 30MK. Yeah, this is all stuff that costs a lot of freaking money. I'm just saying. This stuff costs a lot of money. Not just to develop and build and manufacture, but to keep operating and keep maintaining and keep running. And you're just going to go over and do this exercise, right? And then you're going to, have the media try and lay all these guilt trips on the public about climate change and global warming and a homeless crisis and then a drug addiction crisis and a public school crisis and a gender crisis. And, I mean, it's mockery. It's like a form of mockery when these big military groups and these military organizations go around doing these mock warfare games, and they're still pretending that we're not in some kind of a proxy war already going on. All they did was just ship their endless war machine from the Middle East over there to Ukraine. Everybody fucking knows it. And we should be able to call it out for exactly what it is. And that's exactly what it is. And if we're under the threat that if we don't do it, then something bad could happen to us if we don't protect our assets around the globe. And something bad could happen to us. I mean, we have to wonder when something does or if something does, who really truly is responsible for it, because we already know that these people in charge of these military systems and our governmental bodies will intentionally create situations and create chaos and create crises just so they can come in and save the day. Just so they can come in and build it back better. They will destroy it. It's proven. Anyway, that's enough of my rant. That's enough on Air Defender 2023 too. I want to go into some of this here in the next video. So that'll be the next upload where I talk a little bit about this Government Accountability Office and some of this interesting information on how commercial space systems are changing the conflict in Ukraine. Yeah, space-based systems are not science fiction. They have been researching and developing, and now they are actively deploying these space-based systems above our heads, folks. And we are being subjected to new frequencies, new energy flows, and new pollutants. What I would categorize as frequency pollution, we are being exposed to here at ground level. And more people need to be aware of it and understand that it is not science fiction. That we are being affected by the testing and the deployment of these space-based systems, and have been for quite some time, and more people should be aware of it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Know that I appreciate it and that you matter very much to me.